Hello and welcome to the Foxcatcher preview show for this week. My name's Julian Bellens, joined up in, well, he looks like to be in some location, maybe in the cold mountains or something. No, he's in some other place now with a beautiful river. I'd say that's somewhere in Europe. Nick Ashman, how are you, my friend?
Oh, very good. This looks a bit like Dingle, doesn't it, in the west coast of Ireland, where some of my family are actually from.
Okay.
I'm up and about. It's good. It's Bull Week down there in Victoria. I do enjoy watching the Bull Carnival. I had a runner there a couple of years ago with Big Britannicus. Yeah, the old boy. So he's retired now, but we still have a Britannicus lunch up here in Sydney where that won't be stopping anytime soon. Hey, Wagga Carnival. I'll be posting a tip through our socials on Friday for the Wagga Cup. But before we do any of that, we've got to get through some pretty interesting cards. We've got Morphettville, we've got Caulfield, back at Caulfield for the first time in a while down your way. And up here, we go out to Hawkesbury, which is traditionally a tough meeting, but also one where you can find a bit of a roughie too. And I reckon I've got a couple at a bit of a price.
Well, this is good too. So let's get into the track intel as we continue to scroll through your holiday snaps. And if anyone's out there and wants to get into Expedia, I think Expedia.com, you can get the latest deals for that. Let's get to Hawkesbury. How do you think this track's going to play? Because we're not there a lot and we don't usually talk about this too much. So this is going to be really interesting for the punters out there because this will be some intel that they probably aren't going to get anywhere else.
Hawkesbury, everyone thinks is a bit of a leader's track, and that's because the rail's true on Saturday. It is true most of the time we race out there. We're going to be in the heavy range for starters. Now, getting back to what I just said, everyone always thinks it's a bit of a leader's track. It's an awful track to watch racing on the TV from because it's a weird angle.
It's got a bad angle.
It looks like no horses. Yeah, it looks like no horses ever making up ground. And to be honest with you, it is a bit like that if you look at positions in the run. But when we get to this standalone meeting each year, this Saturday meeting that they have with stakes races, what you find is they actually get off the rail. The best lanes that when the rail's true at Hawkesbury are actually about 3 or 4 off the inside. And on Saturday with that rain around, they're looking at lanes 5 to 12. Do you think you'll be able to settle anywhere in the run? You just got to get out to the centre part of the track. So rather than saying mid to wide gates is where you want to be starting from, what I'm saying is just be careful about backing horses from low draws, particularly in those sprint races where they don't have much time to get to the outside. So anything that, we'll get to snap and don't snap later on, but anything that's hard in the market from a low draw, just be a bit careful betting early.
Okay, beautiful. So that's the Hawkesbury intel from Nick Ashman. We go to Caulfield, as you mentioned earlier, mate. True position the entire circuit. Haven't raced there for a while. Now, it's a soft 5 at the moment, but I think by the time the gates open for for race 1, we'll be on a good 4. In terms of what we think or how it's going to play, intel, shoot, we know that's the 1,000 to the 1,200, very different to the circle, which is 1,400 metre plus races for the shoot. I think quite even, but in saying that, it's leaders plus. So if you can get to that spot out in front, I think that's going to be a major advantage. The circle, I probably want to be a little bit more forward of midfield compared to the shoot. I think the shoot on Saturday is going to be a little bit more forgiving than what the 1,400 metre plus races are. Again, leaders, bonus. I think they're going to get their advantage at Caulfield on Saturday, which can be obviously a major go-to be honest, when the track is dry. Morphettville, Group 1 set, you're outstanding last week saying that, look, you needed to be out wide early doors, which is sort of fascinating from a point of view that was sort of day one of their major carnival, their first 2 Group 1s of 4, for it to go like that. They've gone out 2 metres for the entire circuit. I think they'll stay on a good 4 throughout the day. What are we saying about the intel here? Because I would just need to mention to the punters again, this was really good stuff last week, and I think it would have helped identify certain horses, especially those horses that were swinging wide. And I think if you look at the results and where the barrier positions were, when you could get into that 3-wide running line or even 4-wide running line, you were advantageous through the run. What are we doing with the intel this week?
Yeah, well, look at Benadryl, her SP. I mean, she was 440, 420, crunched right into around $3 because of that wide run she mapped to get. Intel this week is that the inside lanes won't be as big a penalty as they were last week. So plenty of traffic out in those middle lanes. So even though the rail comes out 2 metres, there's still been plenty of horses use that middle and wider part of the track. So the inside lanes now aren't quite as bad. They're not the place to be. What do we got here? Lanes 3 to 10 is the place to be. But don't be surprised if a good leader with the right sort of fractions in front can actually kick in lane 1 or lane 2 and go on and win. But at this point in time, we're saying lanes 3 to 10. So it should be pretty even out there on Saturday, I would have thought, Jules.
Beautiful. So that's the track intel for 3 tracks: Hawkesbury, Caulfield, and obviously for the Group 1 meeting at Morphettville. Righto, Group 1 set. Light on a little bit this week. We're obviously staying at Morphettville, but it is just the South Australian Derby, and went through this race last night, Nico, and geez, it was a fascinating race in terms of it does sometimes lack depth. I mean, sometimes you get this sort of X factor out of the blue. Russian Camelot, I think, has won this race before. There's no Russian Camelot in this race, I can assure you of that.
Sub-Zero won it.
He did win it, and then he obviously went on to win a Melbourne Cup back in 1992. So it's going to be interesting to see where these horses end up, but we don't need to worry about that right now. We need to worry about trying to find the winner for this South Australian Derby, and I suppose we need to start from a point of view of what kind of race shape we think this is going to be, and then we'll probably get to the point of what you sort of want to do from a betting perspective. What are your 2 thoughts on those things?
Well, the pace of the race, so the horse that's first emergency for the Price Kent Camp, Global Eclipse. Geez, I could have got that horribly wrong.
You could have. Yeah.
Will probably go to the front. Led last start in the race at Cranbourne, bolted in by 6 lengths. Has a bit of upside, and maybe the market might gravitate towards his direction. I thought he'd probably lead him. Really, outside of that, I mean, you got a horse, I think it was called Dubai Focus, who has been handy. Was handy in the Chairman's, won by Athanatos. So it probably goes forward. But outside of that, you really don't have any real natural speed in the race. Everything wants to take a bit of a sit. So you probably want a horse, look, Saint Emilion rolled forward last week as well, but he'll probably just be ridden with a touch more cover this week, I would think. Outside of that, there's no real natural pace in the race. So I think this will be sort of just an even tempo throughout. I think given that we've got a few 3-year-olds going up to this trip for the first time in their career, 1 or 2 things happens. 1, they get ridden more quietly than normal, which I don't think will happen on Saturday. Or 2, you might just see them sort of give them a bit of a squeeze to take up a forward position, and then who knows what can unfold. The other one I didn't mention was Gold Rush Guru. Now, I don't know what your thoughts are, but I don't think he's going very good at the moment. And I just wonder if instead of using him up to go forward, whether or not they try and take a sit like they did in the Vic Derby and come with 1 run.
Yeah, I think he's drawn wide as well. So it's sort of like, okay, we're going to cop our medicine, be neutral here. He probably needs a really fast run race. I mean, in the Vic Derby, he was outstanding. I think when he came back, I think he ran 3rd in that Australian Guineas. And I sort of was very vocal in the fact that I thought that Australian Guineas rated really poorly. And even though he ran 3rd and he was going to be better over distance, I just still wasn't saying, well, let's stamp him. He's come back super. I just think we've spoken about this a lot, about those Vic Derby winners. You sort of win there and then you just end up going to the grave, not doing much else. After that, he just seems to be like that. He just seems to be in the middle of nowhere. If he ever got back to the Vic Derby rating, yes, he's going to be winning this race, but I can't imagine him getting to that point. I mean, I've got him a big price in this race. So he'd need to improve a lot to be involved. It's a really interesting point when you say, look, there's not that much speed in this race, and there was not much speed in the Chairman's, which was actually the perfect lead up for this race in Adelaide, obviously, that you mentioned, that was won by Athanatos, and it didn't have much tempo. I will say that I think there's around 10 horses that are on the quick 7-day backup, and my feeling always is, if you're on the quick 7-day backup, try and use your horse up a little bit the next start. Try and put him in a forward position because you're going to have that ability to be just right there and be hard to run down. Now, a few of those horses that are on the 7-day backup, it just might be not their go. It's just not what they do. But I would think maybe a couple of those on the 7-day backup that might be at big odds might just go, you know what? Our best opportunity is we might be the hard fit horse. So maybe we do take it up and then we're going to be hard to run down. So maybe that gets some pace into the race.
That's a fair point.
In terms of what I wanted to do here, Stacciario, I mean, he absolutely bolted in last start and was off the map. And you look at that and you go, well, this is probably a really good situation for him. He's off 28 days. I don't think that's an issue. There's no doubt that obviously they think that's the best way to have this horse. I just couldn't get anywhere near him in terms of the price, and we'll get to pin the tail a little bit later where we actually identify the horse. So I was around him, and when I was around him so much, and I've spoken about it before, when you can see the favourite and you've got him much bigger than what the market has, usually you find some holes somewhere else and you go, I want to be with this horse, I want to be with that horse. Chase Your Dreams just won a maiden recently, but it's been scratched. It was the one I was going to back. And another 7-day horse I'm going to be backing is Lavalia. So, again, it probably doesn't find the post that well, but I just thought it hit the line well enough on the 7-day backup that it might be the one that might be able to settle maybe forward of midfield. And just at my market price was the one that I wanted to be with. But it's not a race that I wanted to be charging into. Yourself?
Look, I ended up having something on St. Emilion last week, just in that chairman's at the last minute, and I thought he raced pretty well. He sits on speed. He's a real natural stayer, and he probably just got out sprinted a bit, but he was still pretty good to the line. I'll stick with him on Saturday because he's got that nice mid draw. I think that's going to be the key to this race. You've identified the fact that I'm with you on that Statuario is a bit of a, not a false favourite, but I could easily get him a bit longer than the $4 quote he currently is. Then I sort of say to myself, well, who do you back? And I'm looking for horses that can sit forward of midfield, be in the spot without having to be moved around too much through those early stages. St. Emilion's one of them. He'll be in the first 6. He's an out-and-out stayer. Toddy Panel, the local, jumps in the saddle. He'll give you a bit of a sight. And the other one, and I want to draw your attention to, it's more from the SP point of view here, Julesy, is Scintillante for Cliff Brown. Now, this horse was off the map in the Athanatos race 7 days ago, the Chairman's Stakes. Never figured in the finish after getting a mile back in a slowly run race. If you look through his sectionals, you can kind of see that this is a horse that's a real natural stayer.
Yep.
And I think probably last week, even though he was back and trying to come into it wide, which is the right play given the way the track was playing, I think sectionally it didn't work for him, that slow tempo. So he might be another one. Billy Egan in the saddle, he might be able to be, a few pairs closer on Saturday, up to 2,500 metres. He could jump right out of the ground. You're getting $16 or $17 to find out. Both of them are good play.
Yeah, that last horse you talk about is interesting because they've got a cute draw. I think they've drawn 5. So if you're suggesting that, he doesn't have that turn of foot, then that's the horse on the 7-day backup that I would think probably should be rolling into the first 4 or 5, just to try and create an opportunity for itself that, yes, it doesn't have the turn of foot, but if you can absorb some pressure and push it on from the 800 or the 600, then you just take a few of these out of their comfort zone a little bit earlier, and it might be a slog to the line. So it's an interesting SA Derby. One of them will be a Group 1 winner after Saturday. That's the Group 1 set. All right, Nico, let's get to your New South Wales set. It obviously is in Hawkesbury. You identified earlier that you've got a few for the punters at double figures, so fire away.
Let's start with race 5. We're going to Quantum Cat. Now, this horse, I know you're not a big trials man, but I love watching middle distance horses. I hate watching. There's no point watching sprinters in trials because, of course, they're going to trial well or jump out as they do down in Victoria. They should catch up, by the way, and do trials. But anyway, but staying horses or at least milers, I don't mind watching them trial because you can get a bit of an idea whether or not they might have come back even better. And this thing, Quantum Cat, I thought he trialled in pretty good order coming into this preparation. He was third in a trial, his second trial behind Belclair. He was third to Belclair and Alligator Blood. I'll get it out eventually. And I'm here. And if you watch his first up run behind Pop and Champagne, he was held up for a fair portion of the straight, goes back to the inside on a day where I think you probably just want to be a fraction further away from where he was. So he goes in for mine. Then we go to race 8. And this is a race where there's a host of chances. This is the Hawkesbury Gold Cup. But I've said it on Mare of Mount Buller. Geez, I think she's highly progressive, this girl from Chris Waller's camp. Chris loves winning this race. In fact, he likes cleaning up full stop at this meeting. She was very good winning the Epona Stakes last time out. She's had just over a month between runs, freshen up back to a mile. It's a play that the stable loves doing, going into bigger miles, normally an Epsom or a Doncaster. But here he is doing it with a mare, 1,900 metres third up, fourth up back to the Hawkesbury Gold Cup mile. She was pretty good in the Aspiration, the run before that. I think her ratings have been on that upward spiral. Don't know how wet she wants it. She's had 2 runs on heavy tracks, Jules. And to be honest with you, one of them I could be quite forgiving of. It was behind Coco's Son in a maiden as a 2-year-old. And the other one was behind Amazonian Lass in the Gold Coast Bracelet. And she wasn't that far off them. She was only a couple of lengths. So I wouldn't read into her wet form too much. I think she'll handle the wet on Saturday. And then go on to race 9. And this is a horse, Firestar, number 9, 99, the Maxwell Smart or the Get Smart tip, if you like, if you're old enough to remember that show. He was backed heavily first up at Canterbury last time out. Thankfully, he didn't get the cash because we were on Pisanello. But this is his race now. Wet track, second up. This is a horse that was incredibly weak when he was younger. He had a good turn of foot, but was incredibly weak, could only sprint for a short period of time. As he's got older, you look at his sectionals and he's starting to put 2 and 3 sectionals together. And I think this preparation might end up being his best. He won 4 on the trot before going out for a spell. He resumed in the Pisanello race where he sat 3 wide, no cover around Canterbury. Ew, awful place to be. So I reckon he's a big improver here. He'll sit off rail with a bit of cover and rip down the centre part of the track.
Okay, so there's some good value there from Nico for Hawkesbury. So get your teeth into that. My set, the Victorian set, we're going to Caulfield, obviously. Going to kick off in the first race. I don't play in these spaces too often, but the 2-year-olds, we've done it sort of previously. We got some lucky a couple of weeks ago, but we're going to go again. Prestige Schnitzel for me. I know it's the favourite. There's no real big spoil on the price, but I just think it's the clear winner here. Its number last start at Mornington was outstanding, as high as I sort of can rate them in that sort of metro region, I think plus 9.5. So it was versatile too, so it wasn't as if it led and just bolted away. It sat off them and just monstered them through the line. I think you can go right on with it, Prestige Schnitzel. I have a big opinion of it as a 2-year-old. And then we go to race 6, number 3. It's a horse called Immediacy. Now, it might actually run in the Warrnambool Cup tomorrow, which is Thursday. We're obviously filming Wednesday night here. It may run in the Warrnambool Cup. I don't want to see it in the Warrnambool Cup. I just think it's a little bit too soon to get to that 23.50 third up, really bog track. It just might not be the right profile for it. I just love it staying at 2,000 metres here at Caulfield in race 6. I love what it did last start. It was a big – it had plenty of ability as a 3-year-old. I think it ran 2/4 in a Derby and maybe the Rosehill Guineas as well behind Riff Rocket. And now this prep, obviously last prep, it didn't work out too much for it in the spring. Here it's come back, and I just think it was outstanding second up. I think it goes right on with it. Third up, I think peak run for the prep, Immediacy race 6. I hope it goes here instead of Warrnambool, so stay tuned to that. That's my Vic set. Prestige Schnitzel, Immediacy. Snaps or don't snap. So here we go, Nico. It's just going to be me here in terms of a horse that we think, or I think might either we want to back it right now at the price that he's offered at PointsBet, or do we hold off and you'll wait till a little bit later because you might get a little bit of a better price. This is going to be the biggest probably talking horse of the day, and I know there's Group 1s outside of it, but Pride of Jenny is going to Caulfield on Saturday. It runs in a race that is very, very low compared to what it's been able to do, and it's around that sort of $2.30 mark, $2.35, Pride of Jenny. And I think people will look at it and go, well, that's just the winner. I think just overall we have to look at this horse and go, it was outstanding first up at the 1800 Peter Young Caulfield, and then just blew up in the Australia Cup. Now, those numbers in the Australia Cup, it's not as if it went absolutely crazy berserko. It's been able to do them and just absorb pressure, and it would have won by 5, the old Pride of Jenny. I don't know where she's at, and I just think, from me, I've marked her a little bit bigger because I just can't confidently say she's going to be able to do it at the races every single time. She's clearly got issues. We know she's very good when she gets her own way. But just the way last start, the Australia Cup, yes, it was a Group 1, but she didn't go crazy. She just couldn't muster at all. It was like, what are we getting with her? And I just can't confidently do that. So I think you're going to get a better price. I hope she comes back and I hope she wins. But I just think maybe the market at some stage has to take her on to some degree. I know some would be saying she's running against maybe the less abled, if I'm allowed to say that. But I think we get a better price about Pride of Jenny on Saturday. So she's in the don't snap basket. Pin the tail, mate. So last week, let's start quickly. It's back to 5-all. I tell you what, get your head in front and then I just get one back on you. Overpass was an interesting one. We sort of both thought he was going to drift. He sort of was at $1.90 and you sort of had $2.75. I had 6 to 4, $2.50. He sort of just still got to $2. So the market still wanted to gravitate towards him. So, we weren't really that super close, but I'd be, I get the victory there. This week we're going Stacciario in the South Australian Derby. And I'll say right off the top, I was $5. You, my friend, are what price?
$5.
Correct. So we're both $5. We think this horse is going to drift at some stage. So again, if you like him, then I think you should hold off because you'll get a better price. I've put in for the sake of this game, $4.80. So if he comes south of $5, I'll get the chocolates. And if he's north of $5, which I think, to be honest, is probably the way I'd be leaning, you'll get the advantage and be 6-5 up. But he's just a horse that I think, yes, he won by a big margin last start, but I've got no figures really behind that, Nico. Is that sort of your thoughts as well?
Yeah, and look, he's sort of had a few runs now. He's had the 4 runs, and I think two of them have been pretty fast run races. Now, I'm not saying that'll be a major issue for him. The thing that's keeping his price probably low, I mean, I looked at this and thought, I'm going to get him $7.
Yeah.
You know, that's what my third. But then I looked at the opposition. I was like,
yeah. There's not much there.
Not. Like, I'm thinking there's going to be a dead heat for last, that type of thing. So, because
the ambulance might get them all.
Yeah, well, yeah, you can live in hope. So, and that's funny because we've got a Vic Derby winner here with Gold Rush Gurus. So, but I do think he'll be just a touch soft. Surely the pros aren't going to absolutely smack him.
Yeah.
I would have thought they at least snip around at a few others that might improve at a price.
Yeah, I totally agree. So that's the pin the tail this week. Let's get to the plays of the day, mate. We're just about done. I'll kick us off because I'm in the first race at Caulfield with those 2-year-olds. As I spoke about Prestige Schnitzel, I really like the number that it produced at Mornington last night. Yes, it was Mornington, but I like the fact that it sat off them and then really hit the line hard. Look, no big spoil on the price, but I just think it'll do some damage on these horses on Saturday. I think it's a horse with plenty of progression, so I want to see where it ends up. Prestige Schnitzel in the first at Caulfield. You go to race 8.
Yeah, race 8 at Hawkesbury. So Mare of Mount Buller for Chris Waller, 4th up, 1,900 metres, back to a mile, 4th up. It should be good tempo in the race, providing Regal Zeus comes up here, because then Punch Lane and him will probably roll along up on top of the speed. I'd say Mare of Mount Buller just goes back, probably sits to the outside of Green Fly, maybe tries to grab the back of her stablemate Osipenko, maybe My Oberon, and works into the race. She's going to need luck at the right time because she's a back marker. But I just think with the track report that we've got that it should suit run-on horses, I'm happy to play in her space.
Beautiful. They're the plays of the day for this week, Hawkesbury and Caulfield. Nick Ashman, thank you very much. Thanks for the pictures from the holiday guide as well as we get to the Maldives exactly on cue, which is perfect because Bull by the Pool continues. Bull by the Pool continues. So for tomorrow, there'll be tips for Warrnambool. Bull by the Pool will be involved there. Till Monday, I will see you then.
See you, buddy.
See you, mate.
You win some, you lose more. For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.